internet, I shouldn't be watching this movie. It has whores and stuff.
Good, Matt, don't say and stuff.
I shouldn't be watching this movie. It has whores.
That's better.
And
Thank you.
this is the only podcast about movies. My name is Matthew Crowe.
And my name is Shahir Dowd.
And today we will be reviewing the film The Nice Guys.
It's kind of a description of you and me, right? We're nice guys.
It's a description of half of this room, and I'll let the listeners decide who is the nice guy.
Well, there can be more than one nice guy.
Well, it is called The Nice Guys. It is plural.
Come on, just let's relax.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for bearing with us. Our Civil War episode was so huge, we had to take a couple extra days off. But we're back on schedule. We're back on track. I'm psyched to be talking about this movie. Actually, well, in light of a couple different things, which I'll get into, but Shahir, for people that haven't listened to us before,
and why would you have not at this point?
Because we're the only podcast about movies.
That's
if you
right.
find another one, post it in our iTunes reviews. You can rate us 1 or 5 stars, but post another movie. I'd like to learn about some films, is what I'm saying.
And if you haven't guessed, what happened was Matt Kroll and I were sitting around one day deciding, watching a movie, and we decided, hey, nobody has actually made a podcast about movies.
No one talks about it.
We literally Googled or Alta Vista'd or whatever for a second and found nothing. So we decided to make a podcast.
That's right. Wait, you looked for things? I was playing Snake on my old flip phone.
I didn't even bother looking.
No, I don't know.
Hey, Matt, do you know one thing as well?
What?
One special little tidbit?
What's a tidbit?
I think today is our 1-year anniversary.
No!
It's our 1-year anniversary,
It
buddy.
is not. What'd you get me?
Nothing.
Oh. Well, look, you see how quickly the special flew out of the room? Wow, that's crazy, though.
Yeah, 1 year. We've been doing this for 1 year. Our first episode was Mad Max Fury Road, and it was literally, we were watching that movie, and we said, we should do a podcast about this movie.
Right, and we didn't have a name for this podcast. When we started this, we didn't have a name or anything, and I just kept joking about how it was the only podcast about Mad Max, and then it just sort of...
And that's what it became.
And here we are, 1 year closer to the fucking grave.
So if you are just tuning in, we like to take 1 hour to talk about a movie that's come out in the previous week. This week it'll be The Nice Guys, and really get into it. If you have listened, you've probably ascertained our 2 different personalities. One is to say Matt is, correct me if I'm wrong here, slightly more on the action film kind of side of things. You like to see things in a movie theater, blockbuster, popcorn. That's your jam, right?
I mean, sure. I'm also not a Neanderthal.
Well, that's to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm of the slightly more snobby variety who likes to drag Matt along to art house movies like A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting Existence and other long titles that have more than one syllable.
Sure, because you can't just call a movie The Nice Guys and have it work.
And as I say, we broadcast or we release our episodes on a Monday, and you can always email us in if you have something to say about what we've said at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod, or catch us on Facebook where we occasionally post articles where we try to elongate our ongoing fights with each other.
Well, actually, that's a beautiful segue because you posted an article on our Facebook page. Dear listeners, if you haven't looked at this, please check it out. And I forget what it was actually called, but it was bitching and moaning about how Marvel movies have taken away the prestige of fucking movie stars, and now we're obsessed with franchises as opposed to people. That pissed me off.
I don't think the voice work is correct.
Also, I read the entire article like this because here's what pissed me off, Shahir, after I read it, and it was funny. It was saying basically just that, how like now we're beholden to these characters that are owned by franchises as opposed to like, oh, what's the latest Brad Pitt movie? Or like the movie star is slowly sort of becoming something different. And to that I say good, because an example of a film it used in the article was Money Monster, which I also saw.
Which you saw this week.
And I believe my very snooty 5-year-old quick snap response that I wrote back to that article basically...
I'm reading it right now.
Basically...
Should I read it in your voice?
Sure, read my response in your voice.
Characters are becoming more popular than actors that play them. The MCU is a current take on classic mythology, hence why it's up... Oh my God, I can just hear you like angrily typing.
Breaking keys.
I saw Money Monster last night, and the reason that these types of star-driven films don't make money anymore Oh, and there is a reason, because while we have 13 Marvel films in the can, we've also been watching the same stars make the same type of predictable movies for the last 25 years. Films that their cast play themselves, but with very minor twists. Blah, 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 blah.
I like that part. The blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, a lawyer, a cop, someone with a Boston accent.
In my mind, that feels far more old hat than Iron Man 4 ever could. Also, they can't fly or shoot repulsive blasts from their hands, so there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the side of this article that I agree with, I agree your point of view is that I don't care that movie stars are not as important to sell a movie anymore. I actually, I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
What I do agree with this article is that these franchises are becoming a place from where movie stars are irrelevant.
Right.
And in a way, that's because the films themselves are kind of irrelevant. They're just throwaway movies, and that's the problem. And the line from the article that I really like is that you're no longer watching a movie anymore. You're watching a 24-pack of bottled water from Costco. And I think the point there is there's going to be another Thor film. Does there need to be another Thor film in the continuum of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I don't know, Shahir. Do you need to drink water with your analogy?
Here's another point I want to like. So to me, the Marvel movies are becoming more and more like a TV show, right? A long, extended TV show.
An excellent television program.
Here's the thing. When something bad happened in Breaking Bad, you felt the repercussions of that event in the immediacy of the next episode.
Sure.
I don't feel any repercussions from going from one film to the next.
Well,
I don't feel like there needs to be...
Up to Civil War.
I feel
like Civil War was the catharsis of that.
But I just feel like Thor 3, I think, is... As much as I'm excited to see that movie because of Taika Waititi, the director,
sure.
I don't think there's going to be any repercussions from what happened in Civil War or Avengers that are really going to take shape in that movie.
Right, but my point is, and sure, if that's your cup of tea, then you can drink it cold and sour. But like
it's got to be sour now. It's got to be sour.
But listen to me. And this is going to transition into Nice Guys nicely. The way that we're saying it's the Costco water or whatever the heck, like what this article doesn't really take into account for, and what my snippet, I probably said it a little too fanboy for to be actually taken seriously by anybody. But that's not the Marvel movies problem. That's paint by numbers movies problems. And yeah, there's some Marvel movies that aren't as good as other Marvel movies, but just like Money Monster, Shahir, I know.
I think Money Monster was the wrong analogy to bring up, the wrong comparison.
But you know what? In a weird way, it's perfect because we have been watching the same fucking shit by the same fucking people forever. And since it doesn't have a shared universe and we're not going to see Money Monster 4, but like sequels do the same things. Some great films like Lethal Weapon, the sequels didn't do anything to you know what I mean? Like we're talking about Shane Black soon.
Sure.
So like, I don't think this piece to me, and I'm sorry to say this, felt like someone needed to write an article. Like they had fuck, I gotta write an article about movie. Okay, Marvel's popular. Let's take a contrary thing. Yeah, that's it. Woo, franchises. But here's the deal. Something like the film we're going to talk about right now, The Nice Guys, if they used this in that article, I would have respected the point more, because it would have meant that they did a little bit more research and weren't just sort of soapboxing, because this film spoiler alert, really enjoyed.
Right.
And it's something that when I was walking out of the theater with my girlfriend, she's like, it's amazing this movie got made. Because if you're like, oh, it's a 1970s detective story featuring two, misanthropic sort of a detective and a hitman type dude, and you're like, okay, like we've seen that a trillion times. Like this plot, we've seen a trillion times, and even down to like the old pulp movies and things like that about a mystery about someone's murdered and you have to figure out why, and it unravels into something much, much larger. And
it comes from the guy who kind of wrote the rule book on that genre of films back in the 80s and 90s, films like Lethal Weapon, The Last Boy Scout. Yeah, Shane Black.
But in this, he makes it feel fresh again to me.
We'll get into that.
I know, which is fine, but like that.
We'll get into that.
That to me is like, oh, you're taking a similar trope and shellacking it with enough spice and different stuff for me, and now I'm enjoying the same meal again. But I'm not complaining about it, and I'm not being a little bitch when shit comes up like that.
Listen, everyone, you can follow our ongoing Facebook battle on our Facebook page, The Only Podcast About Movies, but that's not why we're here.
No.
We are here to talk about The Nice Guys. And Matt, you just walked out of this movie.
Literally like an hour ago.
An hour ago. So
I mean, when it was done, I didn't walk out of the movie. The movie finished and I left the theater.
Okay, well, so tell us what the Nice Guys is about. Who are these nice guys? Are they really nice? What's the game here?
So the Nice Guys are basically Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling. And Ryan Gosling is a pretty shitty but kind of accidentally sometimes good private investigator who has a 13-year-old daughter named Holly, if I remember correctly. And they are sort of just like, he's basically taking like small-time jobs, kind of scamming people out of their money, but only when they're really dumb or sometimes elderly. And
you're not saying those two things are analogous, are you?
No. I'm just saying that this happened to be one of the situation they set up Ryan Gosling's character to be kind of a scumbag is an elderly woman in a retirement community hires him to find her husband, and it turns out that you see right on the shelf he's actually dead and cremated in an urn, and he's like, when's the last time you saw him? And she goes, oh, at the funeral. So it's like, and then Russell Crowe is sort of like a hitman who gained not a hitman, but like an enforcer, but for people. Like you could hire him to like stop people from doing awful things. He kind of was like what Ryan Reynolds' character in Deadpool was before the whole Deadpool nonsense. Like,
got to bring it back to a superhero.
Why not? So, but and they both did a really good job in this movie. And they both kind of cross paths with one another. There's someone got murdered. It's super, without getting into spoilery stuff, I won't say that, but their paths cross. First, like any sort of buddy comedy action team up, they have their differences. I believe Russell Crowe, even in the trailer, you see this, he breaks Ryan Gosling's arm.
Yeah.
But eventually they team up to try to figure out what the hell's going on in 1970s Los Angeles.
Yeah, there's so the film opens with a porn star who has died in an apparent roadside accident in quite a sort of ingenious little moment where a young boy finds his dad's porno stack and
kid from Iron Man 3, by the way.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
There you go. And picks up a porno mag featuring a porn star named Misty Mountains, only to find Misty Mountains comes crashing through his house and dies in the almost exact same pose that she's in the magazine. It's a nice little moment. I
liked it a lot, but I liked it when I will say this. This is something I didn't like about the movie.
Well,
I know that scene, all very cool and stylized or whatever, but it did like. But I feel like it does what a lot of the clever pulpy things do. It did. She died right in the same pose. Her boobs are out. It's like it was almost too on the top, and she says a line, something along the lines of like,
"How do you like my car, big boy?
How do you like my car, big boy?"
Yeah.
And like instantly, I was like, "This is too perfectly said." Like it just, I was like, But at the end of the film, it does pay off. You learn some things. Things make sense. But that was the one moment, and it sucks. I sat down and this scene plays out in the first 10 minutes, and you're like, "Am I gonna like this?"
Yeah.
Like, and I will say I did. I mean, eventually I did. I got over it.
Okay, give us your overall opinion and why.
Yeah, I think it's a fun film. It's one that the trailers sold me on initially.
Right. I don't watch the trailers, though.
It's kind of the trailers painted as they painted more of a comedy, but this is a little bit more not serious, but more action sort of oriented. But it's perfectly Lethal Weapon. It's perfectly Shane Black. It's not anything I was like super shocked and awed about. It was just like a really good time, and it does something that I think movies that are trying to spice up the action genre needs to do, and it sort of takes its characters and they're competent enough, but they're not like supermen, and they bumble their way through stuff, and they use their weaknesses as strengths on occasion, and they eventually sort of save the day, but not really. And it was just a really fun time at the movies. Am I gonna, other than this podcast, am I gonna deeply consider the plot and the ramifications of things? No, but I'm gonna enjoy myself, and it was new characters that I hadn't seen before, and I don't know, I really enjoyed my time there.
Okay, all right. I mean, I can certainly see the amount of fun that could be had with this movie if the jokes land for you,
and if you like fun, if that's sort of your thing.
Well, let's talk about that, because I always, like when you say that about me, does it
hurt your feelings?
Well, it kind
Because
of
if it hurt your feelings, that would mean that you have some sort of empathy and remorse, and maybe you do feel human emotion.
No, I definitely do not feel human emotions. I am a borderline sociopath. But because one of my, whenever I think about what is a fun movie to me, the immediate movie that I always go to without fail is The Big Lebowski. I don't think I can watch that movie at the drop of a hat anytime.
Sure.
I think that movie is a barrel of laughs every moment I watch it, and I think that movie is smart as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is a remarkable thing. And the reason I bring that film up is because I feel The Nice Guys is trying to play in that same ballpark, which is that it's trying to do a neo-noir, modern LA noir in comedy, kind of taking the style of like the best noir films, something like The Asphalt Jungle, The Maltese Falcon, Chinatown. Even.
Yeah,
I think this movie is really playing in Chinatown, and have fun with that genre by injecting two likable buffoons, as characters. That said, I found this movie to be, while plenty of laughs to be had, I found it more miss than hit. I found a lot of jokes didn't quite land for me, even though I could kind of see the cleverness of the writing, like the wry moments when Russell Crowe would look to Ryan Gosling and say, "Did you fall? Did you fall? You didn't fall out the window, did you?" Those kinds of things were like, okay, it's funny, I get it, but it didn't really work for me. And it was interesting because I was enjoying the charm of this film. I like seeing Ryan Gosling play an idiot. He's often kind of the serious actor.
He's way better when he steps out of that zone.
Yeah, when he's being funny, and I think he's very funny. The thing that happened though was this film kind of got derailed for me in one scene, and that was the party scene where a shit ton of things happen that seem to happen by coincidence, and they don't really connect, and it doesn't even connect in a sort of like abstract humor kind of way, in the way that funny, the opening scene with the porn star dying in the same pose that the kid is looking at. You know how that's kind of got this sort of, okay, it's not quite real, it's out of this world, and it doesn't quite make sense, but it's kind of elegantly funny as a set piece. The party sequence for me, which we'll get into spoilers in a second, really kind of derailed my enjoyment of the film, even though it has some good moments in it. And I thought overall the film had a lot of pleasurable moments in it, but I just walked out feeling a little underwhelmed, a little bit like, well, that, like you said, it was a mildly enjoyable time at the movie, but it didn't really rock my world in any way.
Well, I said it was a good time at the movies, but I wouldn't think about it. But that's okay.
Yeah. So before we get into spoilers, if I was to recommend, look, I think it's a good rental. I think it's a fun, if it ends up on Netflix, it's a fun movie to put on a Friday night. I think the crowd that I was with enjoyed it. But is there more to this than that, in the way that there's more to the Big Lebowski than the initial viewing offers? I don't think so, and I don't think I'm going to watch this movie again.
I don't think this works in the same sort of headspace that Big Lebowski does. That point I will agree with.
It also, did you catch Inherent Vice as well this year?
No.
Last year?
No.
So P.T. Anderson tried to basically do almost the same thing, but he leans slightly even further into the abstract, than Shane Black does, and that film fell flat to me as well.
Right. I don't think, but I think the difference, and I think we come back to this time and time again, my old chum, is that, yeah, it doesn't have the brains that, like, say, the Big Lebowski has under the hood, right? But who gives a fuck? Like, I don't need it. I don't need it to. Like, I lived in the moment of it and enjoyed that moment, and to me, that is a successful film.
Here's the difference: is I think the Big Lebowski is a film with brains and is much more fun.
Sure,
it's a lot more fun.
Listen, Big Lebowski, better movie. Doesn't take anything away from the fact that this is a really fun, good movie. Like, it just doesn't. Yeah, if you want to build a hierarchy, yes, Big Lebowski is a better film than this, if that's what your criteria. If you don't want to see any movie that's worse than the Big Lebowski, don't see this movie. But if
no, hang on. What you're saying, that's a false criteria that you're setting up here, because what I'm saying is that this is a film that is going to it's within that same genre, but it's just not as good. And if it's not as good, then why bother seeing it?
But you just said what I said wasn't what you were saying, but then you just said exactly what I said.
Well, no, because I think what you're saying is that it doesn't matter that it's not good.
No, I'm saying it's really good and fun. But if we're talking about good as a quantifiable thing, like rating scores, like 1 to 100, and I'm just going to make it up on this ramp. If Big Lebowski is, I'll just say 100 in this hypothetical situation, and this one is 89 or 85.
That's being very generous.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. That's just like saying that, oh, well, anything that's not 100 isn't worth your time. And I really don't think that's true.
So everything is worth your time.
Above a certain number, and this one one
there's
clears
a quantifiable number that is above your time.
If we were doing a range like this, absolutely. And if I wanted to build this sort of level, if I said like maybe like 50, right? If we're going 1 to 100, 50 and above is worth my time. Because I think there's something to be found in things like that either try something really hard, fail, do something different, or is sort of, status quo with a couple little sort of nuggets of new stuff and whatnot. And this one even is above that for me. Like, I don't think this movie's not going to change anyone's fucking life, but movies don't have to. Like, that's the thing. And we've gone back and forth in this a ton.
Yeah.
It just, you can have all of them. You can have all of them.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, my point here is that if you have a choice, for example, because time is limited, between, say, a movie like if you have a choice between paying $14 and going to the movies, or watching The Big Lebowski on a rerun, I'd pick The Big Lebowski.
I would not.
Really?
Versus this experience that I had for a new movie,
right?
Then
so you're telling people, like, if someone's coming to you, which is what someone might be coming to us asking us.
Who would ever ask us that?
Because they're listening to the only podcast about movies.
Oh, touche.
If they're asking you, should I spend $15 on this movie or watch The Big Lebowski on a rerun?
I would say go see this movie.
You would say go. And here's the difference. I would say don't.
Yeah.
I would say watch The Big Lebowski.
So do with that what you will. Mom and Dad are fighting and you'll never know the truth. Let's go into Spoiler Town. If you're cool with that. You go with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so Spoiler Town. Welcome.
We need to come up with a spoiler theme.
Dun
dun dun, Spoiler Town.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun, Spoiler Town. Spoiler Town. Spoiler Town. Spoiler Town.
Now, that could either be the point where we start talking about, things that happen in movies and ruining the plot for some people, or
the point where people switch off, go, what the fuck is happening?
I was going to say a DIY jingle for a actual spoilers for cars store.
Spoilers for cars?
Like the back thing.
Spoiler Town.
Yeah.
Spoiler Town.
Spoiler
the thing
Town.
on the back of my car that I sing in town.
Yeah. Just like that. So,
but it's not.
Spoiler Town, hit us up.
Not.
We need residuals. So let's see. How do I start this? So Shane,
why don't we start with the party scene?
Well, okay. Do you think it's? A series of, I think, entertaining and funny enough events happen where Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling's character, and it's funny. There's actually kind of a third member of this comedy, Holly. Who played Holly? She was great, I thought. Where'd she go?
She's a young Australian actress by the name of Anjali Rice.
Wait, how did I bring up the praises of an Australian actress before you?
I haven't heard of her before, but no,
you're slipping. You're slipping.
Boy, like this is one of those things when you look at her IMDb page, it'll make you feel very inadequate in your lith
because she's done like 9,000 things.
And she's like 14 years old.
And we're here talking about what a 13-year-old does.
Yeah, exactly.
So through a series of events in this film, it comes, some of them violent. It comes to the fact that Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are both sort of on the same path. Russell Crowe is attacked in his apartment after doing a job looking for, oh God, what was the character's name? The girl,
Amelia.
Amelia, thank you.
Like, the thing I was thinking about was Amelia Earhart the whole time.
There you go. But, no, nothing. That has nothing to do with anything in the movie. But that's a good way. Hey, you remembered it.
Yeah.
So they're looking for Amelia. Ryan Gosling was hired to look for Amelia as well, but he basically wrote it off because
he was. The thing was, he was told to stop looking for Amelia by Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah, by Russell Crowe. Yeah. He was hired
to stop him looking for Amelia.
So Russell Crowe breaks.
By Amelia.
Yeah. It's God, it's going to be hard to talk through the beginning part of this. So basically, that bit's convoluted and doesn't make sense at the time until the two get together and sort of match stories.
It still doesn't quite make sense.
I was thinking about it after the fact. I was trying to put the pieces like the ducks in a row, and it makes sense. as much sense as any sort of these noir sort of like, yeah, if we're going to go, could this actually happen? The chances are incredibly slim, but it worked in the world that the movie set up.
I would love to like paper sketch the actual plot down, because I think this is actually where the plot where the thing falls down for me is I found the actual storyline, like the mystery that they're trying to solve, a little bit over convoluted and a little bit uninteresting. Whereas I found their rapport fun.
Yeah. No, I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
I think especially in the beginning, I felt like the middle of the film, which we'll sort of get to, and I kind of thought it started at the party scene, but we can go back and forth. The plot for me felt like, okay, it's calmed down a little bit. I'm getting the proper amount of information drip fed to me as the plot moves along. Things are clever enough happening, blah, blah. And then by the end of it, when they're putting pieces together left and right, I was like, yeah, they're speeding up.
Yeah. I mean, look, as spoilers go, this film boils, like Chinatown becomes about corruption in Chinatown and the water drought problem of Los Angeles. This film becomes about the death of the Cadillac converter. Yeah, Cadillac converter. Was it Cadillac or catalytic converter? I thought it was the catalytic.
Well, there's a catalytic converter. Yes.
Yeah, basically the death of the electric car was what this film was about, and how corruption at a higher level basically caused the death of the electric car through individual stakes, and that's the ballpark of the film, of the minor film noir, like individual characters fighting against the system.
Sure. And if we wanted to backtrack it, so who's the person who plays the senator, the woman there? I can never remember.
She works in the Department of Justice. A nice little throwback to LA Confidential with Russell Crowe and Kim Basinger.
Right.
Playing opposite each other.
Right.
Again.
So Kim Basinger is the head of the Department of Justice, and she has a daughter who is an activist for clean air in Los Angeles, because there's smog alerts and all that stuff. Back then, it was even much worse.
And the daughter has the strangest plan.
The daughter has the dumbest plan in the world to appear in a art film, aka a porno, with her boyfriend, and they're going to intersplice it into a film at the auto show, like at a big auto show.
And it's weird because the idea there is that this part I kind of like. There are elements, again, with this whole film, there are elements that I kind of like.
Okay.
Like that's kind of a clever idea to, like, like there's been some comparisons to this film to Boogie Nights, and I don't agree with those comparisons at all. Completely different genre of film. But the idea here is that Amelia, with her boyfriend, makes a art porno film, and the hook is that the story in said porno film is actually true, and is what is gonna get the story of the catalytic converter out there.
Like, it has facts in it, like in the actual story of the thing. It's kind of nuts.
But it, like, as I think one character says, wait, you're telling me the whole point of your porno film is to tell a story? Nobody watches a porno. Yeah, nobody watches a porno film for the plot.
Which is kind of funny and telling for the entire film, because a lot of people's best laid plans in this movie go fucking tits up.
And maybe there's a real meta kind of commentary there, which is that the plot of this film has an interesting point about electric cars and the death of the electric cars, just as water, like the water story in Chinatown, but nobody watches it for that. But it's there.
Sure.
And maybe there's a meta level to this that you could bring some enjoyment to.
Yeah. But
we're both kind of unconvinced.
I mean, look, if someone had a case, you can write us in and tell us exactly what you think and do your own detective work to figure that out. And if you brought me that information, I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not too surprised. But it's also not, and even, I'll even give you this year. To your point, this movie is not on that Big Lebowski level where after I get out of the theater, after we're done talking about it, I'm not going to be like, I want to figure this out. Like, I'm interested. I'm only interested if someone else does the work for me.
Right.
So, so they get a tip. How does this work? They get a tip that Amelia's going to be at this big groovy party.
They know that Amelia was in a film with Sam Sapatak, I think his name is, or something like that, the porno producer.
Yeah.
And so they go up to his house to
find her.
To find out information about her. And then this is where, for me, there are things that happen at this party that, again, are like that opening scene, but start just playing in a way that doesn't seem elegant or fun. They just kind of seem, it feels like we're just throwing things at the wall at this point.
I don't think so. Like what?
Like the blue man appearing, like falling off the, so the blue man appearing is one of the later events, but, and the death of the blue man.
So let's backtrack. Sorry. This movie has a lot of shit going on in it, so it's hard to.
One thing that, for example, happens is Ryan Gosling gets drunk or he has his.
Well, he's
drinks.
an alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic, but I'm implied that he gets his drink spiked or something like that.
Oh, I never got that analogy. I just thought he was drinking because it was free.
Right, and then he falls off a balcony for no apparent reason, only to stumble upon the body of the person that they're trying to find. And for some reason they decide suddenly that they have to dump the body for no apparent reason.
It was because the girl who they weren't sure if it was Amelia or not saw him and he yelled, "I'm looking for my gun."
That's no reason to dump a body. There's no way that your bullet is going to be in that body. Like they didn't kill this dude, but suddenly they're acting like they did.
I don't know. I think it's fine. It's not a huge plot point, and it didn't break anything for me.
The problem that broke for me is that these guys were suddenly being dumb guys. Like they were suddenly like idiots, bumbling around. Whereas it previously demonstrated that they had some respective smarts in this world. And I was like, really, you guys gonna, like he literally just stumbled on this body.
Okay,
and then he stumbled on Amelia seeing him, and just things like that started adding up on top of each other. That just kind of, I wasn't in the movie anymore.
I don't have a problem with him getting drunk and sort of the reason he falls off the balcony is he's flirting with this girl in an Indian costume and he says he's a cowboy and he's like, "I'm really good at actor, like I can get shot," and she's like pretends to shoot him and he does a couple things and he does like a tumble off of the balcony. He doesn't realize it's the second floor or whatever, and then he rolls down a hill and that's where he finds the body. Is it convenient? Yes. Do I have a problem with that? No. Now that you're talking about the other thing though, about how like I could see if they were both drunk, oh God, we gotta hide this body or whatever. But Russell Crowe's not drunk.
Yeah,
Russell Crowe doesn't drink until the very end of the movie.
Suddenly they're implicating themselves in a murder for no reason.
For a joke. Yeah. I mean, that's the point where the joke was, wouldn't it be funny if a body hit some like family party in the Hollywood Hills?
And it has no consequences.
No. You're right. No, 100%. If you want to break it down and break, that is a logic breaking moment of the film, and I could see where it would take someone out of it. I was already kind of along, and I guess that just depends on your level of involvement or what you're thinking about at the time. I just was laughing at that point. Like,
see, and I personally didn't find any of that particularly clever funny either. I just find it kind of like,
well, it's slapstick funny. It's not clever funny.
But it wasn't even slapstick funny to me.
It was to me. I don't know.
Right, yeah.
And so, subjective, all that jazz.
Yeah.
But the blue man that you referenced before, so let's backtrack a little bit.
All right, as I like to call him, Blue Joker.
Oh, yeah.
Blue Joker turns up.
So before the party, let's follow my timeline.
Yeah.
Before the party, but after Russell Crowe breaks Ryan Gosling's hand and tells him arm and tells him to not keep looking for Amelia.
Yeah.
I guess these hitmen are doing sort of a cleanup of all the people around Amelia's life.
Yeah.
And go into his apartment and try to kill him. And there's two guys.
Yeah.
Black dude and a white dude. And the white dude is like snooping around and they find a bag and Russell Crowe's like, "You shouldn't open that. I'm holding it for a friend." And you think it's like evidence or something, whatever. But it's actually just one of those like money bags that like when you open it, to prevent theft, the blue dye just splats you in the face.
Yeah.
So he's known as sort of Shahir calls him the blue man. And
he's actually referenced in the credits as Blueface.
Is he?
Yeah.
Because there's just this hitman now with just this blue ink on his face because that stuff doesn't come off. So he ends up showing up at the party eventually, along with the other dude. And Russell Crowe gets into a fight with him on the balcony. And I thought that scene, I love, Shane Black does some really clever, small action scenes.
You know what was weird about those action scenes, though, because I know exactly the one you're talking about, is there was a thing for me it was just another element that took me out of the movie, is inconsequential bystander death. IBD. If I give up. Inconsequential bystander death.
Like 3 or 4 people got plugged.
Yeah, and it was like, and it's not in that way like in an action movie, like a Marvel movie or something like that. You kind of see people, you kind of get, if you stop and think about it, people are dying, but they don't like do a close up of it.
Right.
Because they don't want to like detract from the action.
Sure.
But in this film, they kind of like, they will do a close up of someone getting shot. And then they just move on. And I'm like, wait a minute. A dude just got straight up murked right in front of everyone.
Granted, that dude was wearing stilts in a giant tree costume.
He looked like the Ents from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But he or she wasn't the first one.
No, there was another person.
In the blue face, when the blue face and the other person come to Russell Crowe's house, they like take a shot at Russell Crowe,
and it goes across the street and hits a woman.
Yeah, and I was like, and they do, and the thing is that like that's kind of interesting, but they do like a close up of it. So
that wasn't a close up. That you just saw her go down. That
yeah,
one but I get what you're saying.
It's specifically in the movie, right? Like it's not like it's like they want you to pay attention.
Of course.
And then it's like, but it has of no consequence to the film whatsoever. And it was like, it's one of those strange things where I was like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Like, there's no point at which where they're talking about how people are dying because of their actions. It's just kind of like, people are dying. Yeah. And it's like, oh, look.
Hey, people die, Shahir.
People die. People die in this fun little 1970s, film.
I mean, it gets pretty violent at certain points. It starts with a porn star's death that's pretty, not gory, but bloody.
Her death also makes, and I guess you could.
They're cleaning. The thing is that the hitmen are going around cleaning up all of the loose ends for the person, and I think, and near the end, you find out that Kim Basinger's like, spoiler alert, she's behind it, and whatever.
She's the big bad.
And she's not necessarily trying to kill her daughter, but eventually she just says fuck it, and she's gonna do it because she's paid off by big gas or big motor or whatever,
big electric, big gas companies. Yeah. So it was just. It's like the compounding of things like that just just pull me out of the film in a way that kind of that makes it underwhelming for me.
But the things that pull me back in, if I'm going to swing back to a positive, is the relationship and sort of the way that Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe and the daughter interact with each other.
Then even then there are weird moments. Like in the party, there's another weird moment. Where so Holly, Ryan Gosling's daughter, like hitches into the party.
Sure.
Which is like, by all means, the party of a pornographer.
Yep.
And Russell Crowe.
That was the quote that we did in the beginning.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling like puts her in a cab, takes her back, says get out of here, and she turns up back at the party, and Russell and she ends up in a room watching porn with like an older porn star. And Russell Crowe comes in and like beats the shit out of some old dude, some young guy saying you shouldn't be showing this girl, this porn. And then another woman says, no, I put it on. And Russell Crowe's like, okay, you shouldn't be watching this. Go home. And just walks out the door. And I'm like, what is happening here?
There's a lot of child neglect, I guess I'll say, but also these characters are not painted as any sense of responsible. Like,
no, they're not responsible, but you do get the sense that Russell Crowe has a paternal affection for this girl. Like he
I think Russell Crowe, if you want to get down to the nitty-gritty, I don't think he has a real paternal thing for Ryan Gosling's daughter. I think it's more of his sort of redemption arc is how there's a side story where about a year before all the events of this movie, he just does violence for money and he'll, save people, but they have to pay him. There's even a section for the first thing you see him beat up somebody. He goes to the girl who hired him and he's like, you're $7 short.
Right.
Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
So he, at one point in a diner, a guy came in with a shotgun and was trying to rob it, and he took a bullet and disarmed the guy for free. And he even says at one point, while he's trying to actually bond with Ryan Gosling, he's like, that was the one of the only days I felt like all right with myself, or something along those lines. And then Ryan Gosling is drunk asleep. But I think Holly represents for him, and especially as a whole thing about killing sort of throughout.
Yeah, and he has to like fake that he killed someone, which is again, I think, leading into this paternal.
Sure, no, but I don't think it's. I think it's not a paternal thing. I think it's almost like she's becoming his conscience in a weird way. I don't think it's paternal, because I think if it was paternal, he would have taken her out of the porn room. I think he realizes through the story that he tells Ryan Gosling that at one point when he does good things, he feels better. I mean, that's just the truth of it.
Right.
And now here's a little girl who's constantly telling him to be like, are you a bad man? Like, you need to not, whatever, da, da, da. Yeah. I think throughout it, and then he makes the proper choice.
Does it make sense that he would like beat up this first dude for showing her the film, and then when he realizes it's someone else
for the character, yes, because he's prone to violence. If he's that's the instance. If a guy showed a little girl a porn film, especially he beat up a dude for a young underage girl in the previous thing.
Yeah, that's his whole MO.
But that's the thing. Like now it's a pretty porn star showing her a thing, and then that's not paternal anymore to me. I'm not saying this is a logical thing, but it makes sense for the character. I don't think because I don't think he thinks of her as a
Right.
Look, and Ryan Gosling's not a good father. He's getting drunk at a porno party. Although he didn't know she came back, he put
her in a cab and told her to get out of there. And Russell Crowe saw that whole exchange happen.
Yeah,
but he doesn't seem to like.
Well, he tells her to go home. Again, it's not his kid. Like it's not.
I think
a
you're being
normal,
very forgiving of. I think it's not necessarily a logical incoherence there, but it is kind of like. I feel like we need to keep this girl at the party, and you have these two characters run into each other, and it seems like Russell Crowe's character would get her out of the party, but he doesn't. And it's just
wait, but doesn't he? Now I'm confused.
No, he just leaves her there.
He leaves her there. Hold on, and then they go dump the body, and then
and consequentially she gets kidnapped because he leaves her there.
But why
because that older porn star.
Does he leave? Why does she leave the party? She runs
into Blue Man because the older porn star says, "Oh, you're the girl that was looking for Amelia." And she takes her to Blue Man. This girl was looking for Amelia, and then she's put into a cab, and then puts her life in mortal danger.
Right? Yeah.
And it's like But I get it. Like, we need to put her in mortal danger to get the movie going around. But it happens in a really
I'm fine with it.
Unconvincing way.
Unconventional way.
Unconvincing.
No, you're saying the word wrong.
Really? I'm not saying it in your accent.
Yeah.
Unconventional.
Look, again, if you have problems with these sort of things, I can understand them. Yeah. I just didn't. Again, this movie had set up a world that was, in a weird way, for all the violence in this film, and maybe this is why people getting plugged didn't sort of take me out of it either. It's too wacky to be actually dangerous.
Right, and I didn't find it wacky enough for that stuff to like land in a way that was interesting.
I felt like it was wacky enough, and I did actually like at one point, Ryan Gosling keeps fucking up throughout this movie, and he comes up with certain things sometimes, but most times it's like he thinks he gets a really good idea and funny, and then it's not right, and then he bumbles into the answer, like sort of as the clues go.
Yeah.
But like by the end of the film, he's gotten away with not dying so much. He's actually like, what does he say? He says something along the line.
I
think I'm invincible. I don't think I can die.
Yeah.
Like
now that is one of those ones that kind of lands for me. I kind of liked it.
Right, but yeah. I think it's funny that even in the meta of the movie, it's admitting like this is a wacky world. This is not real life.
Yeah, I just personally, I guess the difference is I don't think the level of comedy kind of pays off the narrative inconsistencies in a wacky way. Like it's not like is it the Zucker brothers that made Flying High and Airport and Hot Shots Part Deux.
Okay.
You know, like it's not that kind of like crazy like meta comedy.
No,
but then it has like these sort of like weird.
It rides a good line for me, at least for me. I and again, it's part comedy, part chemistry between our two main characters. It's really three main characters that like keeps it interesting for me. And again, I've said this a bunch. I'm a character guy.
Yeah.
Your story can be garbage, but if your characters are, and I'm not saying the story is garbage, I'm not saying it's great either. It's an okay story to get me through watching characters I like have an adventure.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. You know what? The best analogy I could think of, like thinking when I thought about this film was, do you watch American Dad?
No, I mean, I've seen an episode.
You've seen an episode here and there. There's this running gag that happens later on in American Dad where Roger the alien and the son, whose name I completely forget, create their own sitcom, and they call it Wheels in the Leg Man, which is one guy is handicapped and one, and they're two private detectives that go on solving unsolving mysteries. And I feel like The Nice Guys is an extended episode of Wheels in the Leg Man, which is that it's a kind of silly idea for a movie put together. Now here's the thing, I like Lethal Weapon, The Last Boy Scout, a lot of the movies Shane Black had a hand in making. Mm-hmm. I haven't watched
Last Action Hero. He wrote that too.
The Last Action Hero? Really? Yeah. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Mm-hmm.
I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
I think that movie is amazing.
It's funny. I didn't like it when I was a kid. I don't know why, and I rewatched it as an adult. I was like, this is fucking great.
It's an amazing movie. It's an incredible... it's weird because that movie got panned so much, but it's so freaking good.
It is really good. That's a movie that got better with age. Anyway,
sorry to interrupt. No. And so I feel like this was a fun idea for a movie where they put, I was talking about how, Shane Black's past history. I'm worried now if I go back and watch those movies. Like I haven't seen Last Boy Scout in a long time, but I watched that a lot when I was younger. I'm worried now if I go back and watch that, whether any of it will make sense to me or whether it won't hold up at all. And same with the Lethal Weapons. I loved the Lethal Weapons, and I loved the Lethal Weapons because I felt like the relationship between Miggs and Murtaugh was real and genuine and earned. I think these are two interesting characters. I don't find their coming together necessarily that convincing.
I do. I find it convincing. Again, you're going to hear me a lot say I find it convincing enough. Yeah. But here's the difference. Like Riggs and Murtaugh.
Yeah.
Right? Is that?
Yeah. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Like, if you go back and watch the first Lethal, see, you're remembering, and I've done this too. You're remembering 4 Lethal Weapons worth of friendship, or however many you've
Lethal
seen.
Weapon 2 is definitely my favorite.
Right, the first Lethal Weapon,
is dark.
which I've watched recently, and I love it.
Yeah,
but it's the same sort of level of friend. It like
they're building the friendship.
Right.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they the end of this movie happens, and like they
set up their own
agency
called
Wheels
the Nice
and the Leg
Guys.
Bands.
Yeah, they're the nice guys.
And the nice guys. Yeah. And I mean, I would see a sequel. I like them. I'm hoping, and it could now that they've sort of set it up, they could have a lot of fun. Now, granted, it's a little bit weaker as far as opposites attract best friends thing because they're both darker characters. Where Murtaugh was a family man, and Mel Gibson was a fucking loose cannon, suicidal. It makes that dynamic to me. The Lethal Weapon dynamic is a more interesting dynamic, but these two guys I liked a lot, and I think I'd like to see more adventures of them in the late 70s.
Right. I wonder if I'd be interested in seeing another movie. I guess I potentially could be if now that we've set it up. It's kind of that franchise building thing, though, which is that like.
And I don't think he did this one to set up a franchise. I don't think so.
That said, he is the guy who wrote Lethal Weapon, which set up a pretty big franchise.
But again, I don't know if Lethal Weapon was meant to set up a franchise. Like,
who knows? So I don't know necessarily if I would see it. I do, I think we've both kind of given and taken a little from each other in this particular review.
Sure.
Which is that I think I've pointed out some things that highlight why this film didn't work for me.
Right.
And I think you've pointed out the chemistry being strong enough to work for you to cover up the problems that I pointed out.
Right.
Would I see another one? Would I see another one of these? I don't know. I
would. Again, here's that with the, I'm gonna fucking middle ground all this stuff.
I might see another one.
But that's the thing.
But I wouldn't watch this one again.
I love Shane Black.
Yeah.
I love these characters. I would definitely see another one. Now, am I going to be like, oh man, I really hope they make another one?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying if they make The Nice Guys 2, I'll go see it. Right. But I'm not clamoring for it. It's not like Thor Ragnarok or whatever the fuck the next Marvel movie, Doctor Strange.
You're clamoring for that?
Actually, I kind of am in a weird way.
Right.
And again, great director, right?
What are we talking about, this or
Thor?
Right.
And it's what's going to sort of kickstart the
we spend an inordinate amount of time talking about the Marvel universe.
Isn't it funny how important that is to everyone? But no, it's the kickoff of the whole Infinity War thing, and Ragnarok is one of my favorite Thor stories. It's again what you say. It's an actual consequence story, right. And I love the fact that they're putting the Hulk in it because that is going to put a whole twist. I've never seen these two characters alone, really, other than when they're punching each other in the face. Regardless.
Okay, back away from the Marvel universe for a second.
I don't know how to do that.
Did you see Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Forever ago.
I didn't watch that movie, and I feel like perhaps my enjoyment of this film might have been more if I'd seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because I hear it's very familiar territory to this film.
Sure, I mean, yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Like, it could have primed you.
Primed me for the kind of experience this would be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something I really liked, let's just sort of talk about a little bit more technical aspects of it. Like the beginning of it, there's a really... Or it throughout
this is just me, but I really didn't like the font and the motion graphics at the beginning. I'm just putting that out there.
That's fine. I didn't think of it one way or the other.
Yeah, because I'm just that guy. But I was like, I don't like
One thing I liked is some of the video treatment that they did when they were looking at footage and it slowly turned into what the actual movie was. That was some of the cleanest, like what old stuff looks like into new, like the transition of the sort of two types of visual looks always worked. Like it worked really well for me. Little things like that, I thought they did. I wasn't a huge fan of the font. I wasn't a huge fan of the, whatever. But it's,
I agree that stuff was done pretty well. But I would hope that most people would do that well.
Yeah, but think about
day of digital.
God, think about how many people do it shitty though. Like there's even I don't want to keep doing it, but like some of the movies that I love, when it cuts back to like footage, even in Civil War, I'll give it that when they're clicking through the stuff, I'm like, oh, you just popped in the fucking Blu-ray, like make it look like news footage. Anyway. One thing I did want to talk about, and this is more of a Shane Black thing than it is this movie. Yeah. Why does he love Christmas so much?
This movie isn't sitting Christmas.
No, but at the end, when they all get together at that bar, there's Christmas lights outside.
It's one of his things. Right?
I read an article, and I think I might have found the answer. Because for those of you that don't know, most all of his movies either have a Christmas undertone or it will happen at some point in Christmas. And it's just something. Iron Man 3 is a Christmas movie.
Right.
And he said something along the lines that his characters are usually sort of unstable loners with very few friends, and he really likes the juxtaposing them in a time of the year that's supposed to be all about family and community, and it kind of A, makes them feel more alone, and B, makes them eventually, when they kind of find a community, for lack of a better word, like it's stronger. Right. But here it just feels like and I was like, but you know what though? It might still work with that MO because it's at the end of the movie and now they're partners and like it's Christmas time, so they're coming together. I don't know. I just find it weird when a filmmaker will always do an arbitrary thing across any genre of film that he makes, he or she.
You mean like act like an auteur?
Yeah, like that's his thing.
That's a weird thing to you.
Like, no, but like, it kind of is. Even going to Raimi, putting his fucking car in every damn movie. Like, it's fun. I like that. I think it's silly, and I don't know.
I think, the other thing about Shane Black that I find interesting is he is obviously a throwback to the kind of action cinema that we used to talk, that used to be the staple of the 80s and the 90s.
Sure.
Even the music in this movie, which I didn't particularly like.
I liked it. Soundtrack was fucking hot.
No, not the soundtrack, but the actual score. I like the soundtrack.
Oh, I don't remember the score.
The score is very much like the twangy, we're in the 70s, kind of thing. And it was
yes, I like it.
And it was kind
porny.
of like, and remember the guitar riff from Lethal Weapon?
Oh, yeah.
Kind of felt a little bit like that. And I guess the thing that it got me thinking about was, there was a time when Shane Black was the highest paid screenwriter in Hollywood, like next to Joe Esterhaaz.
Yeah.
I think it was The Long Kiss Goodnight, the film that Geena Davis ended up being in, which was not a very good movie. Sold for something like $4 million or something like that. So he was like the king of Hollywood for a little while. And now like an actor like Russel Crowe would have been the king of Hollywood had he existed maybe one decade earlier.
Right.
So in a weird way, this film feels slightly, not just literally the story is set in the 1970s, but the film also feels out of time. Like it feels like it's not in the world we live in today, which is about story more than charisma. There's something interesting about the way in which this film feels like it's a throwback, literally and metaphorically as well.
Okay.
I think that's kind of that could be an interesting way to view the film.
Sure.
I don't think it's maybe I'm happy that we don't live in this era anymore.
You can also, as this movie even taught us with its characters, you can bumble into greatness. Like, you can make a great point like that accidentally through,
right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, So even if that wasn't on purpose, you could have tripped your way into meaning more. Like, so, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Black was thinking that, because he does throw a lot at you in this movie. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
I would give it that, totally. And like there's certainly still a sense of craftsmanship to this film. This isn't like a poorly made film.
No, I think everything played very well for me.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it just doesn't, like elevate beyond kind of like, I
hate the word meh.
It's a
MEH is probably the most painful thing someone could say about a thing, because it means to me like you're not even worth hating. in a weird way. And I think this movie's much better than that. I think it warrants a watch. It doesn't warrant more than, say, an hour-long conversation with your two favorite film critics. And it's just sort of I don't know. I go back to fun, man. And I'm not
See,
harping.
I kind of knew you were going to bring up fun a lot. And I do think at some point, you and I need to define what fun is.
We can do it right now. We got 5 minutes.
Because I think my definition of fun is very different to your definition.
What's your definition of fun?
My definition of fun is actual fun. Like, I think The Big Lebowski is actual fun.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, you're noticing a debate king using the word he's defining in the definition.
No, I do think, like, I think actual fun, as in movies that are actually playing to an audience intelligently and generating a response. Now, I don't find personally people punching each other for a long period of time actual fun, but I do find when Mad Max does it, for example, the punching has meaning behind it, and people are doing exhilarating things in the name of a good story. That to me is fun. Things like the Marvel movies where we just get inundated with things blowing up all the time doesn't strike me as fun. It strikes me as tiresome.
And I think it strikes you as tiresome because I'm not going to say you have a bias at this point, but
against the Marvel movies,
yeah.
I liked Civil War. I was willing to buy into Civil War. I'm willing to give every movie the benefit of the doubt.
But I do think that the whole fun conversation is interesting because the first thing you went to is like when something is presented to be an intelligent and formal something, blah, blah, blah. It was a very clinical. You defined fun in the most clinical doctor's office sort of way, which is fine. And I get that's how your brain works.
No, but that's also how we've been asked to clarify our points here. Do you want me just to say, oh, fun is when I laugh?
No. But the interesting thing, like, I wouldn't. Let me see if I can do it because I haven't thought about what the sort of definition of fun would be, but just off the top of my head, it would be something different from yours. Mine is that feeling I get like inside my gut or whatever when I'm just like sitting there and actually feeling the emotion of enjoyment and being like, wow, like this is something that I am not getting elsewhere currently in my life at this moment. And this one thing, let's say the nice guys in that particular moment, is making me feel good. And I'm enjoying the time I'm having. And look, if I really wanted to, this is something interesting, I think. I could hate this movie.
Right.
If I really wanted to, I could break it down because I'm a neurotic motherfucker that could just take all the parts and break it into garbage and make it feel like a piece of shit for me. But I don't want to do that. I'm not going to do that. And I think the general populace wouldn't either. I think they could just go and have a really good time at the movies.
It's interesting because I think there's a parameter to what you've just said, which is temporal, which is that
100%.
It gives me fun at this particular moment.
100%. Well, we've talked about this too. I don't think film or any medium has to have a lasting. Something isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Right. Whereas, so for example, for me, if we're going to use the Marvel movies again and again, it's like repeating the same story over and over again loses it. Like, I find Iron Man 1 to be a lot of fun.
Right. First one.
Yeah, the first one is a lot of fun. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, I haven't seen this before. This is really cool. I'm enjoying myself. By the time I've seen it for the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth time, I'm like, well, you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and I'm not really enjoying myself.
The only one of the Iron Mans that actually did, in my opinion, felt like a redundancy is 2. And 2 suffers from the same thing that Ultron did, which feels like a redundancy.
Let's not get into details here. Let's just talk about the specifics of what I'm saying.
I think the problem you're describing in the MCU is much smaller than you actually think it is. I don't think they're all the same. I think 2 or 3 of them out of the 13 are the same. And that's fine. I don't care.
Right.
But I do think I agree with your temporal thing. I don't need something to last in order for me to enjoy it.
Right.
To have fun in the moment.
Whereas I think I have the memory of an elephant, which is that I do remember, okay, you've done this before. I need to see something new. I need to see something that actually has resonance for me in order for me to enjoy it.
And I can always get by sort of the moments like that. Like, I enjoy Iron Man 2, but I enjoy it because now I see more of Nick Fury and Black Widow and characters that I like, and I get to see Sam Rockwell be a fucking amazing character actor. Like, there's things that I can take, and especially from this film, I can take. If this film was a boat, if Nice Guys was a boat, it's full of holes.
Right.
It's full of holes, but using my imagination spackle and things and bailout bucket, I still can get to where I'm going. The shores of a good time.
Right. It's funny how we've like moved away from the film. You know,
because it brings up a bigger, and we have to wrap this up and we'll give our final thoughts, but it brings up a sort of bigger thing, especially going back to the article at the beginning of this thing. Like everyone has an opinion about what a movie should be.
Right.
I feel like my opinion of what a movie should be is incredibly broad.
Right.
I do, because I think there's a space for everything. That's not to say I'm going to like everything, but I just think when we get to the point of complaining that all these movies always do that and blah, then it's like, well, fucking either get on board or stop watching. Like, because there's more movies to see.
Right. I
don't know.
And I actually do think that's a valid point, which is that, but the problem is that these movies are movies, particularly like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which demand attention. But I don't think they're actually rewarding our attention.
I think they are.
Yeah,
we can go, whatever.
Yeah, but
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I do. I just disagree with it entirely.
Right.
But we should let's give us. Do you want to do final thoughts first, or do you want me to do final? I mean, because I think I've made mine's super
I think we've
quick.
actually both made our points about the Nice Guys, which is I think it's not a terrible time at the movies. It is not a terrible time at the movies. It was funny though, I spoke to a couple of people who walked out of the movies, and we should go back to the thing where we record their
Were you
opinions.
in a trench coat? And
No,
creepy?
there was just like a couple of people talking about the movies, and they were kind of generally like, should I spend my money here? I don't know. Like it killed some time. And I to me, time is precious. And like if I had all the time in the world, would I watch this movie? Maybe. If I don't have much time, I think there are better things you could do with your time. But it's not a terrible time at the movie. It's not the worst thing you're going to see. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe is great. Yeah. And the thing that I like is that this movie, oddly, I was like trying to think how to word this appropriately without ever getting into body shaming. But like,
oh wow, do this.
No,
this is gonna go great.
Yeah, no, this is gonna go wrong. But like, it reminds you that Russell Crowe is a leading man. Like Russell Crowe has presence and charisma, even when.
Why is that body shaming?
Well, even when he doesn't have the physical attributes of.
He was a big
man.
dude. He looked like he was a leading guy. What I don't.
Do you think he reminds me of like Marlon Brando at towards the later stage of his career.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, like not like I don't even want to.
I'm sorry, Shahir. I guess I don't notice those sort of things.
Yeah, I don't even want to get into a body shaming thing. But I'm just saying, like he's
so tweet at Shahir #dadbod.
Yeah, I know.
And
if anyone looked at my bod at this moment, they would be like, "Shut the fuck up, Shahir." No, it's like he is he just has this like what was cool about it is it's like 20 years since LA Confidential.
Sure. And
he has the same presence that he had in LA Confidential, which
100%.
I kind of liked. Like he was in LA, and it's Brando in both cases. It's like it's this sense of presence on screen.
Not Island of Dr. Monroe.
Not quite Island of Dr. Moreau, although everyone should check out that documentary that's on Netflix right now about the making of Island of Dr. Moreau. It's amazing.
And I'll just say, at the end of the day, I think, could you be doing something better with your time? Sure. But, and this isn't an insult to anybody, this is just how humans are. I bet you're not.
Right.
So, you could be going to medical school and learning how to save a fucking life, but you're not. You're going to go to the movies. And it's a fun movie, and I think you should see it. And it does have problems. This is not me wiping the slate clean. I just think its positives outweigh its negatives enough where I could give you my honest opinion that I think it's worth your time and money. But yeah, this has been the only podcast about The Nice Guys. Actually, a film, Shahir, that's getting a 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes. Just putting that out there.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I
really?
do. Yeah,
really.
It's fun, but that's not the point. We did our thing.
It's the equivalent of Captain America: Civil War on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Do you buy that?
I mean, I like Civil War better, but that's just my world. Shahir, where can people find you? People
can find me on the internet bitching about body shaming and being a general douchebag at my website at www.shahirdaud.com. SHAHIRDAUD. You'll see my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff there. You can also reach out to us, The Nice Guys, on the only podcast about movies at onlymoviepodcast@gmail. Write to us. Tell us what you think. Tell us how wrong we are or how right we are. Write us a review on iTunes or hit us up on Twitter @onlymoviepod. Also, check out our ongoing feuds on the Facebook page.
That's right. And you can find me talking Shahir off apparent ledges at matthewkrol.com.
Getting too old for this shit.
Yeah, right? Emperor MSK on Twitter and Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ on the Instagrams. Now, Shahir, I was going to end with like a 70s song. We started with one. I'm not going to do it. You know what I'm going to end with? It's because it makes sense, because poor Misty Mountains gets the shaft, no pun intended. She dies so early. So I'm going to end with the Misty Mountains call from The Hobbit.
Oh, God. No.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I thought you should go with Lethal Weapons.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Get ready to be taken to a magical place, Shahir.
Oh.